Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So today is Friday. Yeah, Friday. The days just run together. So, for yesterday, Thursday, was Ghost Rider. Um, so my thoughts about Ghost Rider. So, of course, since I read X-Men, I was first introduced to the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, who was actually turned out to be Johnny Blaze's long lost younger brother. I mean, it's comic books, soap opera, that sort of thing usually happens. Um, and the difference between him and Johnny mostly was the motorcycle and the fact that um, Danny had like a chain that he could command and use kind of like a melee weapon in his jacket. I remember it having spikes on it, his leather jacket, and his motorcycle was more like futuristic looking, and it could turn into like a battering ram, lower and turn into a battering ram. But of course, the movie Ghost Rider, Nicolas Cage played Johnny Blaze, who was the first Ghost Rider, and he first appeared in 1972 in uh like Marvel Spotlight something. I can't quite remember now. But and then of course Danny Ketch was in the Ghost Rider Volume 3, and that was 1990, and the X-Men crossover I believe was like X-Men. Oh, hi, Dazzler. X-Men 8, 9. So that's how I first learned of him. And the first volume of Ghost Rider with like Johnny Blaze, I think lasted for like 83 issues. And then with Danny Ketch lasted for like, I want to say 93 issues, 94. And then then they brought Johnny back. So Johnny, he made a deal with the devil, who is actually Mephisto. We've talked about him before. And in order to save his dad from dying, and he was actually a stunt motorcyclist. Um, Dazzler, you're so funny. You're so cute. Yeah. I mean, Doctor Strange is called Ghost Rider one of the most powerful beings, like even, up there with Hulk, like could possibly defeat Hulk. I mean, he has, the Hellfire powers. The penance stare can make you, feel the pain that you've caused your victims. He like can burn through your soul without doing physical damage. All kinds of crazy stuff. And then of course, Robbie Reyes was introduced in 2014. And he was actually in the 4th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought he was a really cool character. I liked him. And he is not technically like Ghost Rider in terms of like Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider. Because the ghost of Eli Morrow was more first connected to his car, his Dodge Charger, which actually my uncle has one of those, and it's pretty cool. Like, I got to ride in it. He wouldn't let me drive it, which I understand. Like, that's his baby. So obviously he's not gonna let me drive it. But I got to ride in it, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, so the ghost is more connected to the car, like at first, I believe. And so he's not like a true. Oh, Dazzler, come here, kitty. Come on. Come on. Yeah, you're not supposed to be up there. Come here, kitty. Come here. Totally ignoring me like, cats do. She's up on the stove, and she knows she's not supposed to be up there because, like, not that I would do this, but, even after I use the stove, it's still going to be a little bit hot, and I don't want her to jump up there and accidentally, get on the stovetop and burn herself. So she's not listening to me. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, so hopefully she'll come back over here. Kitty, come here. Come here. Come here. She's looking at me. Okay, maybe. Anyway, so I probably should wrap this up so I can go take care of that. So anyway, Ghost Rider, cool character. He can. I remember reading something about like he can bench 25 tons, which like I don't know how much a normal person can bench. If someone could let me know in the comments. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. When I work out at home because I don't want anyone to watch me work out because I'm paranoid that people are looking at me and watching me, which I'm sure they probably aren't, but I'm paranoid that they are. So that makes me feel self-conscious. So I just work out at home. So I have no idea how much a normal person can bench. Obviously, it's not an insane amount like that or anything. I mean, I'm guessing 100 pounds. I don't know. I mean, tell me what the average, like what is average and what is good, because I have no idea. I don't go to the gym. Like I said, I'm self-conscious. Let's see. Oh, and he's like omnipresent, and he knows like everything. He can be everywhere. He can teleport, time manipulation, all kinds of stuff. Like one of these like super powered, like almost overpowered beings sort of thing. Okay, and then today's is Ms. Marvel, which, let's see, her little caption says, it just says an origin story that, Black Bolt released the Terrigen Mist, empowering latent members of a superpowered race. And she used her newfound abilities as Ms. Marvel because she's a huge fan of Ms. Marvel, like Captain Marvel now. Okay, Dazzler got down good. Okay, so I've talked about this before, but now there's a new development. Like they are actually having Ms. Marvel go back in time and be a part of the major X-Men stories, like Giant Size X-Men and the Phoenix Saga, which, of course it's not like going to be canon from now on, time travel, it's always tricky and stuff. But still, I'm like, can't they just leave well enough alone? And look, she's back. I mean, I feel like some things you should just leave alone. Like some movies you shouldn't try to remake. Some stories you should just leave alone. That's just me though. I mean, I like Ms. Marvel. I liked her show. I thought it was really cute and fun. But the harder they push her into being an X-Men makes the less I like her. And I hate to say that, but it just feels forced because she's like, oh, she's this mutant inhuman hybrid. Like I said, it just feels forced because of the whole they were trying to make the Inhumans the new mutants because they didn't have rights to mutants and X-Men and all that stuff, and Fox did. Anyway, I've talked about that before. It's my little rant. I'm not. I mean, she's only been around since 2014. Like that was her first full appearance, and they keep pushing her. Like the death of Miss Marvel in that one issue, and then she came back like an issue later. I'm like, really? Like I said, death has pretty much no meaning in comics anymore, but that felt super forced. Like they killed her. Everyone was so, supposedly, so emotional, and then she came back like a couple issues later, or you knew she was coming back anyway because they made the faux pas of putting her on the wedding cover for Emma and Tony, and you can see her sitting, on Ant-Man's shoulder. So anyway, just like I said. Okay, enough of that. I'm sorry. It just that's my pet peeve, and one of my pet peeves in comics. Just trying to push characters, where they don't necessarily belong, or just trying to push them so that they're in every single story. I felt the same way about Mystique in the X-Men movies. I thought, yeah, Mystique is a cool character, but she's a villain. Like she should, I mean, she's worked with the X-Men before, but it's not like she's actually an X-Men. She's a villain. I mean, if you look at all the stuff she's done to Rogue, done to her, her foster daughter or adopted daughter, I mean, it's pretty messed up. So I just didn't like how they kept pushing her as, like the central part of the X-Men when that is so not true in comic books. Anyway, I know I shouldn't get so worked up about stuff, but it bothers me when they just like, push stuff on you that you're like, well, that's not the way it is. I mean, I'm sure, of course, I I would say fans that have been reading like comic books for forever, they probably maybe feel the same way I do. But I know and don't get me wrong, Mystique was cool in those movies. I really liked her, but I liked her more in the original X-Men trilogy as a villain, that she was played by a Rebecca Romaine. Um, I thought that was, better because, she's actually a villain. And then in the newer X-Men movie, she's portrayed as, part of the X-Men, which, you know, anyway. Anyway, this video is already too long because of my ranting. Okay, so for Thursday, we have Red Skull. And it says this stamp appeared in Marvel Premiere 1774, September 74, Worlds Unknown, number 7, June 74, and Fantastic Four number 160, July 75. Okay. I've never really heard of Worlds Unknown, that comic book in Marvel, so I'm going to have to look that up because I don't remember hearing about that. So this one appeared from Captain America number 101, May 68 by Jack Kirby and Sid Shores. And John Romita Sr. redrew the face of the Red Skull on the cover, but the stamp uses the unaltered artwork, which appears on the cover of Marvel Super Action number 2, July 77. So you can see the difference in the covers. And so this one, the bottom one, is the one that was used for the stamp. See? The face is really different. So, of course, like, Red Skull first appeared in Captain America comics. That's what they called it back then. Number 1, March 1941. Now Dazzler's sitting on the back of the couch, just like judging me because I embarrassed her during the video by yelling at her because she was on the counter with the stove where she's not supposed to be at all. She knows better. So, but he just like, he has an interesting origin story. Like apparently his mother died in childbirth. His father resented him and tried to drown him because, thinking, well, he caused his mother's death, his wife's death. And then the doctor found him, saved him from his father. The father committed suicide. So Red Skull was an orphan, grew up in an orphanage. At 7, he escaped and left the orphanage and lived on the streets and stuff, and stole, committed like petty crimes in order to survive and stuff. And then he was in and out of jail like as he got older, for the crimes he committed. And another interesting, well, his first taste of death is when he worked part-time for this Jewish shopkeeper. Ironic, right? And he had a daughter, Esther, and his daughter was like super nice to him. She's just a really nice person. She just, she just was, and she treated him like a person. And so he decided he wanted her, so he tried to force himself on her. She rejected him. In kind of like a fit of rage, he killed her, and that was like his first taste of murder, and he found that he enjoyed it. And of course, this was during the rise, like as a young man, he saw the rise of Hitler through the ranks, and to become like this charismatic leader of Germany. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Just with everything going on in the world now, just thinking of Hitler. And I know this is super random, but every time I think of Hitler, like the second thing I think of is just the producers, where they do a play about Hitler and Germany winning the war. And the song, is like Springtime for Hitler in Germany. Deutschland is happy again or once more. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that, I don't know why, but that just like, as because of course, because they wanted it to fail. So they came up with this super ridiculous concept in order to scam everyone out of money. Like if the show makes no money, they don't have to pay their investors back. So they came up with this super ridiculous concept that they thought nobody would in their right mind would ever like. And so that's the second thing I think of when I think Hitler is that song. It just plays in my head automatically. So the Red Skull, made it to where he would meet Hitler. He disguised himself as a bellhop and, kind of got one of his friends who was also an orphan, they kind of grew up together on the streets to try to kill Hitler, and then the Red Skull would save Hitler's life. And then Hitler kind of after that took a shine to him and like trained him himself like personally and gave him the Red Skull mask, because in the beginning it was a mask. It wasn't like his face or anything. It was a mask. And then something happened and he became disfigured, and then he looked like the mask. And so of course he, was put in charge of like the Nazi terrorism division, spying, sabotage, espionage. And then like after the war, because he, along with Captain America, went into a state of suspended animation. And then after the war was over, and after he woke up, he realized, that capitalism was the way to go, and embedded himself in the United States government, Washington, D.C., put himself on the commissions for like super beings, actually got Captain America fired from being Captain America and put in, instead U.S. agent. Wow, I'm drawing a blank on his name all of a sudden. That's terrible. But you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Anyway, so yeah, and then he of course started financing like and this happened too during, his days as, Nazi. But I mean, he wasn't content to just be like part of the organization. He wanted to be like the top guy. So he was always looking for ways to increase his power, increase his life, just, gain more power. And of course, he at one point had the cosmic cube. And so he financed all these operations, going into, modern day for just weapons that he could use to gain more power and stuff. And so, yeah, he just saw that in the modern world, it's better to, instead of like sabotage, espionage, terrorism, politics was the way to go, and capitalism. And he used, his financial gain to fund companies, to further his agenda. It just crazy how that works out. Crazy the parallels for things. Just, anyway, I don't want to speak too much on it because, it's just like we're living in crazy times. I will just say that. Yeah. So, anyway. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I will go make sure Dazzler, because now she's turned around. Like, she was facing me and judging me, and now she's turned around, so she's not looking at me. So I have to go make up with Dazzler. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Speaking of Dazzler, I'm going to post a Dazzler video. So I will see you guys tomorrow for that. So until then, bye.